Okay, so welcome. Welcome to this meetup online of Ladies at UX-Utrecht. I'm going to start this meetup by introducing you guys, Ladies at UX. For the people that never attended a meetup before. We normally do this meetup here in Utrecht. But yeah, well, since Corona times, we are doing this online. And the nice thing about that is that we welcome people from other cities. So it also has its positive side. Ladies at UX started in Manchester. It's a meetup organized since 2013. And it is about creating this community to support women in UX, to support each other. It started by two girls in Manchester that didn't see many women in UX roles back then. So they started this meetup to meet other women and to have role models and to discuss. But now the meetup has grown in different cities, and we also welcome men, and there are also men that have presented different topics. And yeah, the community has grown more. And here in Utrecht, we organized the meetup since 2016. And there's another city here that organizes Ladies at UX, and is Amsterdam. So there are other Ladies at UX around the world. So after this pandemic, if you like these meetups and want to know a bit more, maybe the meetup is also in your city. So yeah, will be nice that you also go there once this is over. So Kim asked this before, but is there anyone else that is not living in the Netherlands? I'm just curious about. Are there any other people? I know Monika is not living in the Netherlands.
Yeah, I don't. Greetings from Warsaw. I guess we also have a Warsaw chapter, but it's not on the map.
Or maybe it's in one of those very cramped pins there, but
could be.
I don't remember if there's one in Warsaw. And someone else from other city? No, countries.
I saw someone from Lisbon, Rosa, but she's still living in Rotterdam.
Oh yes, yeah, I hear that. Okay, that's good. So before we start, I want to just remind you to keep the microphone off, also your video off once the speakers start their talk, because this is recorded, and that's also why maybe it's good if you don't want to be recorded. So keep your video off. And this session will be recorded and will be uploaded in YouTube afterwards. We're going to announce that later in our meetup page and in other channels, so you know. Another thing is we ask you to participate during the meetup or during the talks. If you have questions, we have a website, Slido, and you can enter that code and just type your question there. How it works is that you type your question, you can remain anonymous or add your name here and send the question. If you see a question that you would like us to pick, you can vote on it. Here is a little like button. So the idea is that we make it a little bit more interactive. We know that we all have video calls and it can be sometimes tiring to hear. So yeah, this space is also for participating. We want to know if you know other sources or have other experiences. So it will be great if you put your questions here. We have prepared some questions for the speaker, so we're gonna start with that. and then we're gonna pick these questions later. Okay, so now I'm going to introduce our two speakers of today. I am quite excited about this meetup in particular because this topic, environment-centered design, it's very relevant, not only for designers, but for everyone in the world. And that's why we decided to talk about this. We think that many actions are required by designers and by other professionals to make this world a bit better. It sounds maybe too cheesy, but I think it's not enough to do things in an individual level. We should also do it in our practice. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So first, we're going to hear from Monika Sznel. She's a design anthropologist, UX researcher, and service designer. And later, we're going to hear from Janne. She is a process manager at Green Circles. So I'll give the floor to you guys. If you can share your screen, Monika.
Yes, let me do it. Oh, you cannot start screen share while the other participant is sharing. Let me try again.
I stopped sharing.
Okay, should work now. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, beautiful. Even though I have framed this part like this, environment-centered design theory in practice, where are we today? I want this talk to be more theoretical and more inspirational for you guys, because as I'm very pleased to be speaking today, I do not perceive myself as an expert in a field of environment-centered design. I am simply an enthusiastic of this idea, and I've been, exploring this possibility of switching from user-centered design to human-centered design into the framework that would take into account some non-human stakeholders of our projects. And therefore, I've tried to put my thoughts into a few articles that are available at medium.com. So if you wish, or if you have a time to read them later on, please do leave some comments. I'm very open for your feedback and thoughts. So I would start with a question to all of you guys, and please, for now, maybe we can break a rule for just 30 seconds or so, because I would like to ask you, what do UX designers, UX strategies, or UX researchers do? Like, what's the outcome of our work, in plain words?
Should we add the answers in the chat?
You can add the answers in the chat, or you can just simply speak aloud.
Solve a problem, right?
Solve the problem.
Create solutions that are that serve the needs of the users or solve problems of particular targets.
Maybe also finding where the problem lies before solving the problem. So exploring the roots of a problem or cause that creates negativity for the users.
Mm-hmm. So I do believe many of us, probably most of us, are having these very romantic ideas of what UX designers and UX researchers do on a daily basis. But when I'm talking to other UX designers, actually, it's usually what they see as the outcome of their work pretty often is basically interactions, many interfaces, and other mobile apps. And this beautiful work that was behind all of these tangible or more visible elements is somewhere lost at the very end of the outcomes, right, of our UX process, UX design process. Another thing I do believe we often forget about when designing some solutions and finding answers to the problems that we are facing is that we are also designing behaviors and habit, and we are forming some habits among people that we are designing those solutions for. So if we are using some data analytics tools to later track the product that is released on the market, we can see retention, we can see some data on daily usage, we can see impressions, we can see the events, but we cannot see how these design decisions and design outcomes actually impact the daily lives of those people, because we see them as the users of our products, right? And you probably saw, many of you saw this social dilemma documentary that is lately popping up on most of feeds on Facebook. If you didn't, I really recommend that one to you. At least you can see what real world impact on our societal life all of these mobile solutions or web solutions, social media actually has. And another question is, which I would like to ask all of you, is what is usually missing from a design process? Actually, I've already gave the answer, but this is the real world impact assessment. And I do believe in the UX design field specifically, we often tend to forget that we really have a real world impact with the designs that we deliver to the market, because they are intangible, they are digital. So we don't even ask ourselves what is the carbon footprint of our mobile app, or what is the electricity source that is giving the power to the data servers where we store our data, right? We don't usually ask ourselves these questions. Therefore, we tend not to see the real world impact, especially the environmental one, of everything that we deliver within the UX design process. And therefore, yeah, this is the question to all of us, actually. How often do we ask ourselves, how will this design impact people and the environment? Do you do that every time when you make another draft, another prototype, when you think about the next solution? We usually skip those kind of questions. But luckily, there are many frameworks that are actually here for a couple of years or even a couple of decades to help us design for the positive impact for the environment. What all of them has in common is that they are mostly physical product oriented. So whether we are looking into sustainability in design, circular design guidelines, or planet-centric design, or biomimicry in design, all of these guidelines or frameworks usually tackle the problem of physical products. And this is where I have found a spot for thinking about the framework that would actually impact our design thinking process in the digital area, because I do believe there is still very little both theoretical and practical guidelines or tools that would help us to make more sustainable and environment-friendly design decisions. So in very short words, what environment-centered design, at least in my idea, is the switch of the mindset from focusing on human needs into focusing on both human and non-human actors or stakeholders' needs when designing the solutions for humans. Because if we think about user-centered design, we usually think about the user, not even a human, but user solely, right? Within the interaction of the user and the interface most of the time. When we think about human-centered design, we tend to take into account more societal or technological or business surroundings of the people that we are designing solutions for. And this framework is most often used within the service design processes, whereas the environment-centered design would actually take into account the needs, the limitations of both the natural resources that we are dependent on, the human needs and human limitations that we are designing for, as well as the impact of our designs, our products, our solutions on all of these stakeholders. So inside one of the articles I have published on Medium, I was trying to think about the actual tool that we could use as designers, as solution makers, when we are thinking about solution for, of course, human use, but thinking about some non-human stakeholders of our projects as well. And one of these could be, why not, non-human persona, but we would actually look into the scientific data, statistical data that would give us the better understanding of how our designs can impact Baltic Sea, specific animal species, air condition, or the condition of air that we are breathing, or the lakes and rivers where we put the pollution into. So this is basically the tool to broaden our empathetic thinking that we usually apply when working within the user-centered or human-centered framework onto the other non-human stakeholders. So that was like a short theoretical introduction. Of course, I'm not able to present everything that I've put into the articles, but right now I would actually, I would like to start a short discussion, and probably we will have a chance to continue that later on after the next presentation. But I would like to show you a few examples from products that are already there, existing on the market, where I have spotted some environment-centered design thinking, let's say. First of them will be Bolt. Just a disclaimer, I'm not working for any of these companies. So let's start with Bolt. What they did introduce some time ago is that they claim that they are offsetting all of the drives that are taking place, all of the rides that are taking place in Europe, which means that they basically invest some money into reforestation projects, as far as I can remember, in India and in Africa. So from the user point of view, what they can actually see or interact with is that when they finish their car ride with the driver, they can see this information inside the mobile application, which says all of the rides in Europe are now CO2 neutral or something like that. And later on, user can basically click on that and go into the blog of Bolt to learn more about what they are doing to help the environment and to minimize their carbon footprint. Note that on the user side, there is no additional action required to basically contribute to this CO2 offsetting action. So the question is, if we look in this design, who or what could be the non-human stakeholder or actant? If we think about automobility industry that usually provide us to also use the mobile app. We can later have a discussion because I don't want to stop us from seeing the next presentation, but I would really like to go back to this question and see your thoughts and ideas on that. Another one, maybe you are familiar with this. I'm using that every day on my desktop and mobile phone as well. This is Ecosia, the browser that is also using this offsetting model, but this one is actually incorporated into their business model. So it's not like in the Bolt case where it was a sort of add-on to what they already had in the past when it comes to the whole product design. But with Ecosia, it was actually the part of their business strategy and product design since the first day of their operation. So what they actually do is they provide the possibility to contribute with each web search, to contribute to reforestation projects. And basically it works like this. You are simply searching the web for whatever you wish or need to search. And with each 45th, as far as I can remember, web search of yours, you are actually contributing with one tree that will be financed by Ecosia to be planted in those areas in our world where reforestation projects are the most needed. Another thing that they do is they actually use the solar energy powered servers to back up their operations. And you can think, or you can ask, where is the magic trick? Where they get the money from? So of course, as every other web search tool, they are earning money on advertisements, and they are giving some parts of their incomes into these reforestation projects. So again, later we can have a discussion who else could be the non-human stakeholder of digital industry at large this time, and what else could Ecosia or other web search tools could do even more to provide the value for the environment. And the very last example I wanted to share when it comes to some projects or products that look into more sustainable solutions or some sustainable add-ons inside their products is Zalando. So if anybody of you is using Zalando, you have probably mentioned that they have this sustainability option to choose from all of the filters inside each category. So this strategy or environment center strategies is, on the other hand, happening on the UX design level. So it's not the part of their business strategy, probably, to sell only sustainable products or environmentally responsible products, because we know there are many not sustainable products available on Zalando. However, some time ago, they decided to introduce some products that either use less water inside the production part of clothing, or have some more sustainable practices when it comes to the working environment. So from user point of view, they are not like bombarded with this sustainability filter to use it when they are searching for the item that they wish to buy, but it is there available for them, and users need to intentionally search for sustainable items. Sometimes I could spot that they are probably accidentally promote sustainable products on their home view or home screen, but I didn't see like intense sustainability or environment centered content inside Zalando, both on the website or inside the mobile app. So of course there are many other examples, products and projects that are looking more into the sustainable or environment-centered strategies when they are thinking of improving their operations environmentally friendly. But I just wanted to focus on the UX related and that we can probably empathize with a bit better. So again, we can later on discuss what else such businesses like Zalando could do even better to promote this more environmentally friendly user behavior and user practices. But for now, I just wanted to leave you with the thought that probably each of these industries will have, as we could see, will have to incorporate different design and user behavior strategies to promote this environmental user behavior, or try to help users to create more environmentally friendly habits. And there are many scientific sources that we can actually start learning from to make a well-informed decision, like which sustainable actions or which sustainable behaviors we should promote inside our own products and services that we help to design, help to build, because for each of them, this will be probably something else. I cannot simply imagine to promote living car-free when you are inside the automobile industry, but we can definitely try to seek the opportunities for promoting more green energy or promoting other vehicles than cars that are powered by the petrol. Yeah, and for the very last, I just want to let you know that I truly believe that one environment-centered design decision can lead to millions of sustainable user behaviors, because we can actually add one simple switch or one simple add-on to our mobile apps or websites. Whereas there will be thousands of millions of people who will actually be able to use it, and this will have a real world impact and can contribute to changing the people's behaviors on a daily basis. So each design decision counts. Please remember about that. And I just wanted to ask you guys if you know about any academic departments or PhD opportunities that are looking into doing some research into frameworks for designers that are searching for more environmentally friendly tools or design frameworks. Please let me know, because I'm looking for one right now. So that's it for me.
Thanks, Monika. It's super interesting. And if you guys know about the PhD or what Monika asked, you can leave it here in the chat or contact us. And thanks a lot. And please keep in mind those questions so we can go back to them. I think it's very good that we take them back later. And thanks. Very interesting, and also all the different roles that as designers we can have. So I'm going to switch now to Jana, and then we can continue discussing more about Monika's presentation. And also want to say that in the Slido, we added a poll. So if you guys know more sources like the ones Monika shared, like Zalando or Ecosia, you can also share there. Then we all know more examples and also trigger some more solutions to apply. So the floor is yours, Jana.
Thank you. I will share my screen. First of all, Monika, it's nice to see the theoretical side to what I'm going to talk about. And I'm quite jealous of the amount of trees you saved, because I haven't gone that far yet, because I've not been using Ecosia for that long. But share screen. All right. I will talk to you about environment-centered design from my point of view, and I actually didn't really know the to call it that way before this meetup. First of all, because I've been working at the government and everything is in Dutch there, so we wouldn't call it that. And second of all, because design is still quite of a new term for most people. I will tell about that a little bit more later. And there's a lot of different other ways to address it. And I personally, most of the times, address it as circular design or system design. But I will explain about that later. What I will do is I will talk about the key elements we need for environment-centered design: sensitivity, stupidity, and shareability. I will dive into these three words. But first, I will talk to you a little bit about my work at Green Circles. I will tell you how I ended up working for the government, and I'll shortly introduce myself. So first of all, this is me, studied in Delft, integrated product design. So really hardcore product stuff, dived into technical sustainable development, graduated in sustainable packaging, and did material testing for plastic recycling. So that's quite of a different road, although it is about recycling and sustainability. It's not necessarily about the environment. So I was thinking, how did I end up taking the environment into account in everything I do? And I think one of the things that started that is this. It was in 2001. It was the foot and mouth disease outbreak here in the Netherlands. And at that moment, I was 11, and I saw the news, and I saw all the animals being thrown out. And I was like, how does this work? Why there's so many cows, so many pigs, and there's still food in the supermarket? And when you were walking outside, you saw these fences when going near to farms. But besides that, it wasn't really clear what's happening. I was living in a big city in Eindhoven. So I was really curious how, from a systemic point of view, it was possible that there were so many animals killed and we could still eat meat. So I think that's where my passion for looking into the whole system started, although I was 11, so I had no clue how to tackle stuff. And another place where it started was here. The circle points to a bench. When cycling home from school, I lived very close to school. But of course, on high school, you don't want to go home and you don't want to make your homework. So what I did was cycle here with a friend of mine. And this was the place where I really had to head back. And she really had to head the other way. So we sat on this bench. And this bench was placed at a ecological farm. And while contemplating our life as adolescents, we looked at the pigs playing there, and at all the things around us, the seasons changing. So I think that is also a place that made me realize that there's much more to life than just school, books, houses, and cities. Well, fast forward, I studied industrial design engineering, and I wanted to, well, as Monika says, what we all want to do is have impact on the world around us. And I thought designing products is not necessarily impactful for me. It's not about the products, it's about the way people behave and about the whole system. And so I thought about different places I could work at. And I could either look into product design and add the sustainability point of view, or I could start at a place where you could really make impact. But be one of the only designers there. Apparently I choose the second one. And I got a job at the province of South Holland. I did a traineeship there. But before I tell you about that, I want to ask you a question. Oh, it's skipping stuff. Because, spoiler, when I started there, I had no clue what they did and what my job could be as a designer, actually. I just thought it's a place where they really decide what's going to happen in the region. So I have a little question for you. You can go to menti.com and use the code above the slide and answer the question, because I'm curious how many of you know what the province actually does. And hopefully I'll see the answers live on screen. Because nope.
You mean like a gemeentehuis? Okay.
Now in Holland you have 3 layers, governmental layers. You have the municipality, the province, and the I don't know the English word. The Rijk.
National government.
National government. There's one person who says yes. It's nice. The first day working for the province, they were telling me all stuff about political backing for your policy memos and stuff you needed to do. And I was like, policy memos? Who the hell do I need to talk to? So I asked a colleague if she could give me a little lecture on Dutch governmental policies. That helped me a lot. And I see most of you don't know it either, what they do. Which is really interesting is that the province, because it's a regional government, it's actually a place on an environmental aspect you can really make impact. Because we talk about about space, how to where a building should be, or where solar panels should be placed, or wind turbines. Because we are talking with different municipalities, we have an overarching view of where the whole region is moving towards. So we also can have a big impact on the environment, on the direct environment we're living in. But when I started, I felt like this. I felt like being the odd one out. That's also why they hired me. They were like, "Oh, designer, that's nice. You could provide a different view on stuff," which is nice, but that also makes you feel a little bit odd sometimes. And I had to get used to working with totally different people, because when studying in Delft, there's all these engineers that are really fond of numbers. And although, of course, as a designer, you're already a little bit less nerdy, you still have a tendency to structure everything and to put it into models and frameworks and tools. But then at the government, there's people who are all into soft skills and they want to talk about your feeling. And it doesn't matter how you write it down, but how do you feel about it? And are you sure you're okay? And is the energy flowing the right way? So it was a totally different approach that I really had to get used to. And also had to be very aware of the way I do things next to that. And in my traineeship, I had to go to different departments. I went to 3 different departments in 2 years, looking for a way to make impact, work on a circular economy, make it also less abstract, because a lot of policy stuff is quite abstract. And via some interesting things, but not really my kind of job, I ended up at Green Circles. And I will show you a little movie for those of you who haven't seen it in the link yet. I'll have to share my other screen. It is here. And that will tell you a little bit about what Green Circles is, and then I'll explain a little bit more about what I do in the program. And at Green Circles, from the province, we work with about 10 people, I think. So I have quite a nice place in between all the other people.
Green Circles is a network of businesses, knowledge institutions, government bodies, and social organizations committed to realizing a sustainable economy. Due to climate change and the depletion of raw materials, we are facing huge challenges that no company or institution can solve alone. That is, unless we work together according to the Green Circles method. It all starts with a company that wants to establish a sustainable production chain. With new partners, we can develop new solutions and sustainable alternatives to existing systems. First, we create a common overarching vision, a dream, which is an attractive starting point for all partners. We then initiate projects that contribute to realizing this dream. This can involve all parts of the chain, from agriculture, logistics, energy, and production processes, to the design of our environment. Projects vary widely, from combating bee mortality and emission-free goods transport to improving the soil and landscape. Nature is also an important partner in these projects. If we develop cycles and increase biodiversity, we will reap the rewards in terms of natural water management and cleaner air. Nature and economy will be brought back into balance. It is an inspiring collaboration between parties from different sectors. For everyone involved and for society as a whole, it means a healthy future.
Back to my presentation again. All right. So within Green Circles, a very important part is a dream. a dream that provides a common well, goal to work at. Where do we see ourselves in 30 years, 20 years? For those of you who studied in Delft, I think it's also, it can be compared to the vision and product design method, where, of course, as Monika says, VIP is also targeted to look into products, look into trends that are happening, form that into an interaction vision and bring it back to product qualities. But when designing for the environment, you cannot translate it back to product properties or functionalities. So we do it a little different. But before explaining that, first I'm going to say what we do besides having a common dream we work towards. We also look at the nature as an example for what we do. So not only we take it into account, but we also look at it as an example of how different fields can collaborate. Collaboration is a very important part when working in environmental systems. I will now briefly go through all the key elements I found working on these topics last year, I guess. First of all, what is really important is sensitivity. If you want to work on a project in a certain area, for example, one of the islands beneath Rotterdam, if you want to say we want to have a greener area, we want to have companies collaborate, we want people to be able to go outside after work, live healthy, you need to bring different people together. But what people? You need to be sensitive about what people are needed, because people are a key element of such collaboration. And next to it, you need to be sensitive about people's values. So it's not just, oh, you're an engineer, so you're probably a nice asset to our team. No, what is the main reason somebody wants to be involved? Do they want to make less money, more money? Sorry, not less money, of course. Do they work? Is it a farmer who has to deal with the current policies about all the nutrients he uses? It's really important to look in the personal values of people. And next to that, you need to be sensitive about timing of stuff. Of course, when they just went to The Hague to have a protest, it's not really wise to ask a farmer to join a nice conversation about something totally else. And if you take these things into account, you have to form a team. And you have to get to know everyone in that team. And that doesn't only mean the people, but as Monika said, it also means the environment around those people. So what is their background? Where do they live? Are they people that, for example, have a big garden themselves? Do they care about that? Look into these people and find the things that triggers them. For example, no, I'll talk about that a little bit later. I have a picture from that. The second thing that is really important that I noticed is stupidity. And that in that sense, I don't mean that you have to pretend that or think about your opponents as being stupid, but you always need to explain yourself in the most stupid way. Because what I found out when I just started at Green Circles, I was like, yeah, I'm a designer and I'm going to explain you what I'm going to do. Design process, double diamonds. All right, see you in a couple of weeks. And then I'll come back to you with a new presentation. And everybody was like, yeah, good idea. But after actually 2 months, I noticed that they had still no clue what I was going to do. So it's important to really keep explaining yourself over and over again. What's also very important when being a designer in a field where there's not many other designers, which is important when working at environment-centered design, you need freedom. So you need people to give you space to do things designers do. And what you need to do is constantly switch from a process to the field and vice versa. Just as you would normally zoom in on one target group and then look into the system, look back to the target group, now you have to do that to the field. Constantly look at the effects, the partners, but also look and go back to the drawing board again. And thirdly, what's really important is the shareability of the things you do. Of course, we as designers are used to telling stories or visualizing what we're talking about. But at Green Circles, what we also find really important is have that common goal. That common goal makes your ambition shareable. And of course, when working with a lot of different people, you need to have a common language. So when comparing to regular design thinking, you would say it's a double diamond. We would analyze, we would put things into structure and zoom in and zoom out. And especially the second part has really give me headaches on how to apply that to a very complex system as the environment in general is. And what is really important, normally you would go into one target group. And what we found is that it's important to have, instead of target group, have one species being the face of the story you want to tell. For example, the bee. We work together with Heineken. Heineken wants to produce beer. But I have to have a sip of water. What Heineken also has is ciders, and they wanted to think about the environment around their factory. But yeah, why should Heineken invest in plants on their field, on their company terrain? And then when they start talking about the bee and the cider Heineken makes, which cannot be made without bees, it all made sense to invest in flowers to enhance the biodiversity and have bees living on the terrain. And when talking about those kind of things, what we do is dive into the whole system. And as you saw in the movie, we set one company or one chain in a central place. So when analyzing that for Heineken, we made a figure that looked like this. And by diving into all the inputs and outputs in the system, you could see what the system actually needs. So I already saw a question: how would you do that when it's a very complex system with a lot of stakeholders and a lot of elements? Well, this is a way to do it. But of course, you can make this as specific or wide as you want. So, for example, what I've been doing last week, and that is also then my role as a designer within the team, is create a picture of the price supply chain. And what I do is have a lot of elements prepared, and then together with different stakeholders from Wageningen University, the price factory, the government, we create a new infographic, which at the moment looks like this. And if you really look into all the ins and outs of the whole system, you could look into if there's an energy supply, okay, we need energy. Where could that energy come from? Oh, but there's an energy surplus at another part. Maybe we could connect those. So what we do is really look into that system, and then again look at the partners we need to make that happen, and constantly look at how to set up new collaborations. And I think what we as designers are very good at is not only coming up with ways to visualize this or structure things, but also bring different people together and know when to intervene and what kind of method you should put people to work with. So that's what I do most of the times. Well, my next slide was what comes to mind after my story, and I have a link to the Menti again, but I think it's easier to use your system. And I'm mostly curious about, well, what comes to mind when hearing my story. Are there things you want to know? And I would like to share a lot of thoughts with Monika, because I think it's really interesting to line up both our stories up. But for now, thank you for listening. As a kind of an afterthought, I have 10 tips for successful transition. Maybe you say, okay, that's very logical, but I found that these are very important when working on a transition, when you want people to work more sustainably. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Janne. It's also interesting to see the different ways to visualize systems. And thanks for sharing that and how it looks in practice. I'm going to ask some questions that we've prepared, the organizers. In the meantime, while you guys were talking, I added some questions that people put in the chat and some contributions into the Slido. So I added questions in the Q&A part, and in the poll, I added some links that people shared. So I'm going to start with some questions, but if the participants can also add questions and vote, then yeah, then those questions will be picked up. So I think I'm going to paste the link again into Slido, the Slido link into the chat if you missed it. So there's the link. And the first question I want to ask you both, I think Janne touched upon this a little bit, but you both seem very passionate about this topic, and we'd like to know, where did you get that drive from, or what inspired you working on this topic? It was nice to see all the pictures from the farm that Janne shared. What about you, Monika?
Well, I have grown up on the farm. So I guess, you cannot escape this. So within the past few years, of course, I switched my career to digital area and UX research, but I guess it's just inescapable, So I've been also working as an activist for some NGO to help their with their projects that aim at animal rights, basically. And now I decided to basically connect those two areas that are really important to me, which are basically, on the one hand, the design theory and design frameworks, and more of an activism towards a world that is looking more into the environmental and animal needs. So I guess that's my story in short.
Nice. I actually want to. Yes.
I can add one thing.
Yes.
There is this test that is actually looking into your personal environmental footprint that you can measure by answering some questions. It's available online. I can share that just in one moment in the chat section. And when I saw that, even as a person who is mostly eating plant-based, who is biking all the time when it's not raining and snowing, of course, and the person who is trying to use secondhand options, and I try not to buy too much plastics and packaging and so on and so forth. Even with all of these actions, my environmental footprint was still something around 2 planet Earths, which means that if everybody were living the same lifestyle that I do, we would need 2 planets to sustain the living of all of the people who are now alive. And that was, what? Very eye-opening, just to say.
Yeah, sometimes you have to be aware of those things we just don't realize. And actually, to me, the reason why I was so enthusiastic about this meetup is because I've seen documentaries. I've also tried to cycle and not buy things with plastic packages. But what really triggered me was this documentary, Life on Our Planet by David Attenborough and Netflix. I cried, and it was such an eye-opener to me that I told the team, we need to do something about the environment and maybe just ask the community what they are doing, and yeah, do something. It made such an impact on me. So I think, yeah, we should all get a bit more information and get more awareness in general.
Yeah, but also don't make it too big for yourself. Look at the things you're doing right now and ask yourself, how can I deal with the inputs or outputs from this system, and what can I do with them? Either it's energy or use part of your revenue to invest in other products. I think you need to start small because it's a very big thing we're dealing with, and can be a scary monster coming towards you. So yeah, keep it to yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and small things like what you guys mentioned, in small switches in our design or in our actions can already make a difference. I want to ask you about involving other people. We know that we cannot do things alone. So in your experience, what can we do as designers, or how can we trigger our teams or other people to take action? What are your thoughts on that?
You want to start, Monika?
Go first.
Well, there's 2 things. There's getting people on board to work on projects, and there's making sure you are still enthusiastic and energetic about the stuff. I think what you should do yourself is find a partner in crime. Maybe a designer, maybe not, but somebody who can really hype you up and might feel very easy working with. And then you need to look for people who are enthusiastic about the message you put across. I first thought you need to, well, get people who have big steps to make. You should get those along, but that doesn't really work. If people are not motivated themselves, it's very hard to get them along in working in the project itself. So you need to have people with the same vision and share your passion for the subject. That's really important. And then, as I said, if you are working in a certain area and you have a group of stakeholders who are not necessarily involved in the start of the project, it's really important to look at their needs and really dive into what drives them and look for a connection with that.
What I can add is that I truly believe that everybody who is working in the design field are having their empathy levels at the right place compared to other professionals. Of course, I might be wrong, but every time I'm speaking to somebody that is actually working as a designer, design researcher, or basically designing the communication, I do feel their passion and the passion towards bringing the best solutions possible for the audiences they are designing. So I do believe that having these resources, empathy resources towards people, we can simply build up the resources for having the empathy for the environment alike. We simply, and if we are the first person in the company or in the team that we are working with, who is actually feeling that already, I mean, feel the environmental vibe, and we already know even small documentaries, or we have an access to, for instance, this footprint calculator where we can measure our own individual impact on the world with the way we're living. It's as simple as sending some emails or gathering people inside the company for the tech talks. For instance, we have something like that in the company I am working with, where everybody can actually bring a subject they want to talk about. It can be related to the technology that we are building, but it can be also a talk that is aiming at sparking some inspiration towards something new. So I guess, as Janne said, these are the ways to find your partners in crime, just not to feel this one single person inside the whole company who is having this kind of thoughts and issues with our environmental impact. And just remember that there is no business on this world, even the green businesses or sustainable businesses, that are having zero impact on the environment. Each business has some negative impact on their environment on different phase on their value chain and inside different processes of providing the service or giving the service or the product to the audiences that they are targeting. So our goal is not really to become carbon neutral or carbon positive, but to have a smaller impact step by step, slowly, because we're not superheroes, we're just humans. But if there are more of these small superheroes here and there, we can have a huge impact as a humanity. And I'm like a romantic believer in this idea, but I do believe that every simple step really counts.
Yeah, I agree. And I also think that when you put your mind to it, everything is there's a solution for every problem. So just dive into it. And for example, if there's farmers who are stuck because they don't get the finance for innovation on their lands, to have less cattle or other things, okay, then you need to look at the finance structure, come up with new business models, but also invite the bank to your collaboration. So it don't stop when you find a hurdle, just look for solutions.
So also look into how involving other stakeholders will help. I think that's also interesting in the case of Ecosia. I think that's smart what they're doing, being also the connector of of all these different companies that want to promote advertisement and fulfilling a need that's already there of the user. That's interesting. I'm going to the Slido, and there's one question here. What if our product is adopted in different places of the world? How can we cover this with the personas? And how do we prioritize? What you mentioned, Monika, considering regions and the lakes, or maybe the environment. But what if the products are adopted worldwide? How do you map this?
So of course I was thinking about this when I was exploring this environment center design framework. And another tool I came up with is this actant mapping canvas. It is also available inside one of the articles. So basically, of course, there is no such a solution that would fit all of the different problems that we are facing on the value chain, because, as you said, when we are at the sourcing, material sourcing level, we are going to probably have a different non-human stakeholder. That can be a water resources. That are getting more and more scarce globally. That can be local land that we are polluting with the pollutants that are being developed during the production process, for instance. So for each level of our value chain, I guess we would probably have to look for different actants that we would like to, that limitations and needs in our human terms we would like to address when searching for the solutions. But I don't think we should go, with this grand scale from the very beginning. We should rather focus on the very specific problems. For instance, we are using too much water when producing our goods, or we are hosting our website on a very energy intense hosting platform. So let's look into the solution for that. So of course, if we are dealing with the business strategies or the very high level stakeholders, probably they can look into the whole business strategy and business operations. But from our level, our point of view, we should rather focus on very small specific problems that we would like to address. And then probably search for one or two non-human personas that we would like to help.
Okay, so to focus and start from small and not be overwhelmed by the whole system. And
yeah. I guess this is the golden rule for every other problem that is related to our work, I guess. Don't get frustrated with this huge problem that is facing you. Just make small parts of it and focus on each of them one by one, or prioritize them based on whatever is necessary.
do you have thoughts on prioritizing this, Janne? Because you show the system and how you map. Do you have some tips, or can you share something that has helped your team to prioritize and not map everything? I can imagine that with all systems connected, it's difficult to know what to leave behind or leave out.
Yeah, that's a good question. How do I do that? I think it's really similar to coming up with new product ideas, clustering different categories, and then again from those categories come into 3 concepts. I think it's really similar to that. What we do is look at all the arrows, how to connect everything, how to see the outputs and inputs. And then we look into what has the most value for the people that are there, and also economical value, so social value and economical value. And of course, you have to have people aboard that can assess the economical value, I think. And then just see what triggers everyone. And if something doesn't trigger someone, then don't be afraid to leave it out. Unless you could have a really, really, really big impact with it, of course. If you're like, yeah, you might not find it interesting what water, where your water is coming from, or how you lose the water from your factory, but it's a really big impact, and there's a lot of nutrients in your water, so it might be very wise to look at that. So if you have a big impact, then of course, add water as a very important factor. I think, yeah, okay. It's also a bit of a feeling when you're talking with people and building together, then you notice what triggers everyone, and you cannot do it alone. You cannot make such a system alone, I think.
Yeah, it's
does that kind of answer your question? It's hard to pinpoint how you would do it.
As what we do in our practice, that it depends on the context, on the goal, on the stakeholders. It's always maybe not so easy.
And it is important always to narrow it down again. So it doesn't matter if you make mistakes or correct it afterwards. You've chosen water, but then again, the biodiversity is much more important for the well-being of the people around your factory, for example. No, don't be afraid to switch. Just choose something. Yeah.
Good. There's one new question. Do you know the Sustainable Development Goals? And what's your opinion about Sustainable Development Goals? Do you see ways how they can stimulate ECD? What ECD? I don't know.
Environmental design, I guess.
Okay. I thought, what's that? Okay, of course.
I don't think they are contradictory. I guess actually environment-centered design is looking into the not that broad areas, right? Because sustainable development goals are looking into both environmental, societal, and business sustainable goals for our future. Whereas the environment-centered design has its focus on the environment itself. But so I don't see them as contradictory. They should rather, feed each other, if we can say that. But I can Google that in a moment. But there is this framework or a vision from Resilience Center in Stockholm that is trying to prioritize actually the sustainable development goals, because what we have from UN is simply the list of sustainable development goals, whereas this model from this Resilience Center from Stockholm is trying to actually prioritize those. And it is raising the same arguments that I was trying to raise when investigating the environment-centered design, which is that actually if we do not secure the environmental resources, natural resources first, we cannot secure the societal and business needs, because we as humans and living organisms are basically related to breathable air, drinkable water, and the land that is going to produce the crops. So if those are not being properly addressed, we cannot build any societal and business level upon those, because there will be nothing to build on. Let me just Google that so I can share that with you.
Yeah, and once you have it, I can add it also into the poll. We are gathering all the recommendations and sources there. So yeah, if you guys want to check it, we can also post it later and gather all the recommendations in the meetup page with all the resources. I have another question. I think you already answered this in the chat, but I'm still going to read it. Did you also dive into sustainable UX design from the core? Designing a non-heavy website actually means less storage with a data center. And
That's exactly the question you should ask yourself continuously. That's, if you think about it on that level, then you could dive into where to make what decisions. Do you want to design a website that is indeed non-heavy and uses less energy? Or are you going to choose a way that compensate for the energy you use? Or but from I think from a circular economy perspective, it's always good to use less. So if you design something that takes less energy, good work.
yes, that's interesting. Or if you cannot achieve that, maybe with the other examples we saw, how to make people aware of the energy they use, or yeah, or use your profits to reforest.
If you are making people aware of things, you also have to take into account the rebound effect, because they did that with washing liquid, and they made it more concentrated, so you would use less. But then people were like, or just packaging, I think. But then they started using more because they're like, oh, it's very good for the environment, so I could use more. So instead of making it better, they actually made it worse.
Yeah, okay, that's also interesting to see that. So many aspects. I have another question. How do you visualize all the dependencies? Everyone is related and depending on each other. It's not a really transparent chronological flow. Any ideas there? You show the visual. You have anything to add for this question?
Yeah, just start and do it over and over again. I've been drawing the same supply chain of potatoes and fries for about 8 times now. So yeah, that's do it over and over again, and it gets better every time.
Yeah, and it changes, I guess. It's something that
Yeah.
something that will change, and it's like a living document.
Exactly.
I finished the questions from Slido. Marcela, am I missing something? Do anyone wants to add something? Another question?
I don't think so, but I guess the group is quite small, so if there is anyone here who wants to ask something, they can also turn on their camera and ask it.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Otherwise, I think everyone is getting ready for dinner.
Yes, maybe. Yeah, but there were some interesting questions, so that's also nice, and all the references, and we are going to post them anyway in the meetup. And if you find other nice resources, I think it's always nice to see what other companies are doing to get inspired. I work for a company that we do navigation, so I didn't know this example that Monika presented in the beginning. So it's nice to also use the behavior of user on your products, and maybe as a mean of showing them their impact. So that, at least to me, triggers something. And if there's some other projects that you want to share, then it would be nice also to know, just to have more inspiration. Thank you a lot, Monika. And what's that? Janne, it's a book?
Yeah, I also thought about this book that might be interesting to read. I have it in Dutch, but it's also in English, The Hidden Impact. And it really shows a lot of interesting things about the impact behind all the products we use on a daily basis. So if you want to train yourself into asking the right questions, look into this book.
Nice. I just added. From which author is it?
Babette Porcelein.
Maybe it's good that you.
If you look into the hidden impact, you can find it, but I can also email it to you.
Okay.
Yeah, he was also in like a tegenlicht or a show somewhere, no?
Yeah, I think so too. I have to look that up too.
I think it was tegenlicht, but that's in Dutch, but it's nice.
I muted, sorry. Okay, so I think then maybe we can wrap up. Let me share my screen. I have some things to show you to wrap up. I don't see my slides. I lost them, or maybe I closed them. Okay, I'll find them. Okay, I found them. Sorry about that. So let me share this. Do you see my screen?
Yes.
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 Okay. Thank you both. This was very interesting and inspiring. I hope that this was also the same case for the attendees. We're going to share this video on YouTube so more people can hear about this. Thank you a lot for being part of this meetup. Some announcements. There are some upcoming events that we want to share with you. There is the Savvy UX Summit. It's going to happen the 7th and to the 10th of December. And we are partnering with them. So if you are interested, there's the website. And we check the topics and there's a lot of variety and it's quite interesting. Another announcement is that we are going to host the next TalkUX. This TalkUX this year was a remote edition. It was going to be in Brazil. This is for the international group. So every year is hosted in different cities, and next year, 2021, we will host it in Utrecht. We don't know yet the exact date, but we will let you know. But we were excited to let you know that it's going to be hosted in the Netherlands. Thanks for joining today. Well, this is a slide of the organizers. I think here we are 4 in this meetup. Renata, Anushka, and I know Dominic is also here, sorry. But yeah, so you know a bit of our faces. We're all involved in the meetup. If you guys know about speakers or topics, if you want to discuss a specific topic, just let us know, reach out. Next year, we hope to have the meetup again in Utrecht in a company, and we hope to see you again. So it's always good to have locations and speakers. So let us know. And these are our different websites and where you can find us. And thanks for joining.
I also have one thing to say about our next meetup. Normally, we have a meetup every month, but we usually skip December because it's a holiday month. But we already have a meetup planned for January. We do not have the specific date yet, but you might find it is interesting. It's about the ocean cleanup and the Keep Our Beaches Clean project. So it's similar to this, and you might enjoy it. So keep our social media, yeah, watch it.
Yes, yeah, thanks for that. That's why I wrote here, see you next year, because we won't have any meetup on December. So yeah, thanks a lot, everyone, and also the speakers. It was really nice, very interesting. And Kimberly, Marcella, do you guys want to add something?
No.
No, I just
think
did.
you
So
did well.
Normally I don't host the online meetup, so nice.
it was good. It was perfect. Thanks.
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
Thank you, and have a nice evening.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye
Thank you very
bye.
much. Bye, everyone.